Okay, so it tells me that right here I have unreachable statement, which is the semicolon, right? An empty statement, yes. An empty statement is actually technically available, so it's unreachable. So after return in Java, it's not reachable. So, all right, fine. Hopefully this will build, right? And we can say clean and build, and then quickly run it just to test that everything it behaves exactly like this. And so then by simply changing the parameter, I should be able to say something like this for the debugging reasons, right? I could say system dot out dot print print line, right, and print something like this, debug. I usually use uppercase so that in my application I can quickly search for any words which are uppercase debug to find these places, comment them out, or change them, because it's really shouldn't be here. It's just for my own debugging, right? So plus stack. I simply would like to see what did it create, right? Stack dot get class dot get name. Okay, and so this is a very standard way of debugging Java programs. If you quickly want to find out what you're dealing with here, you can just you can do something like this. So let's visualize that. Save that. Okay, so clearly it says stack double. That's what my system does. It says weak4 demo, which is the name of the package, and stack double is the type of object that I have created, simply because we said the capacity is 100. However, and it worked, right? So it printed all the values and everything. But if I change the capacity, the whatever, to 100 to 1000, if I really want to make that change, of course, if I run it, what changes here, that of course we switch over to the dynamic stack, right? So I don't know if you find it interesting. It is quite amazing that you can do things like this only at the time of creation of an object. When you say new, you have to provide the actual type. Beyond that point, you just say, I want to use it. This is it. And it's possible because what we did this trick. Before using the object, we said, well, you know what? We will formalize the protocol, the access to the actual object, and we'll say, well, you know what? This is what's available: clear, push, pop, full, empty. This is the parameters. And then we say that the actual provider classes, such as stack double and dynamic stack double, do their own implementation. Of course, they're very different, but the interface is exactly the same. What else is extremely desirable is in realistic programming, what happens is that when you know that you're implementing an interface, you really want to fulfill the promise that you're really indeed implementing this interface, because I could say pop and by mistake pop an integer, right? So let me see what happens here. Do I get any warnings, errors, whatever, right? So if I make a mistake and say, well, you know what, I'm returning an integer because I'm thinking about integers for some reason, and using and by the way, in order for me to be able to do this, right, I need to switch back to like 100 or something in that capacity, so that I'm actually creating this original version of the stack. Okay, so first let's build, right? Let's just build and see if see what happens here. It says stack double is not abstract and does not override abstract method pop. Okay, so the compiler was very helpful here. The compiler caught me by simply providing the method pop. However, the promise wasn't fulfilled because the compiler knew that pop should be a double value. Okay, so that was a nice catch, but somehow, with variety of overloaded methods, this could be not so obvious. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is this is highly advisable with when you deal with interfaces and providing implementation, that you actually say override, right? Override. And ask the compiler to check and double check every single method that's supposed to be fulfilling all of this, right? So, and I will do the same with my dynamic stack. Same thing. Constructors don't need this. However, all the methods that implement the interface will provide, will basically ask the compiler just to be sure that what we do is being really an override and not brand new method. So override simply means that if I say clear, you should definitely be able to find this version of clear someplace in the interface iStack. Okay, just be sure of it. Okay, so so that's the idea of interfaces, and I hope you find this attractive, and I hope that if you deal with say multiple scenarios in your project, right? If we still have it someplace, I unfortunately probably already got rid of that little drawing, but nevertheless, if you find, say, a scenario such as emergency scenario, normal scenario, peak hour of operation scenario, and you find that you're really using different parameters, but the same set of methods, maybe you could use an interface, maybe you can create multiple objects to implement your scenario, and then have some kind of scenario, an interface to your scenario class. Similarly, when you think about visitors to the building, right? So there could be visitors could be very different with very different agendas, right? So some visitors may want to one floor and exit immediately. Others may be like office workers that stay there for like whole day and exit only at a specific time, and so forth, right? So there could be all kinds of visitors, so that their agenda is really different, really with different agenda, and you could be programming one class that implements the visitor, and you ending up like over and over and over and over again saying, if this condition, my visitor should do this. If another condition, another type of situation, another scenario, this and that, do something different. So ultimately, it becomes like a maze of if-else, switch statements, and constantly, like over every other line, you have to use another if statement, because all of a sudden this visitor should behave differently if it's participating, in that different scenario or whatever the difference in its agenda is, right? So the advice is then, don't say if else. You simply write 3 different versions of the visitor class, right? Visitor, which is an office worker, a visitor who is a building inspector, and a visitor who is a shopper who goes to the second floor, shopping mall or food court area, right? So they're all very different visitors. You don't have to say if else if you're thinking just about that particular visitor. So create 3 different classes and create an interface, iVisitor, right? Which will simply provide the same set of methods. And at early stages in your scenario execution, you just say, okay, I will create this create visitor, method, which will be returning the iVisitor interface. And guess what? I can just quickly run my if-else check for conditions, and I can provide whatever input parameters I need to make a decision about what kind of visitor I need in this specific simulation, and it'll create the right one. And no longer anywhere else over here, when you're actually using your visitor, you have to say if else, right? So over here, I didn't have to say, if this is a dynamic stack and my capacity is less than 1,000 or something like that, then do this. Otherwise, don't do it, right? That would be really very unpleasant type of code to deal with. Instead, I just said, let me make my decision once, and beyond this point, everything is standard. Everything is just goes and flows according to whatever the interface provides, right? All of a sudden, if I need something else, like for instance, I could have thought about a method such as double top, which instead of, the pop allows me to retrieve the value from the stack, but it immediately, in all of my implementations, actually removes the element, right? Pop, besides returning the value, it also removes the value from the stack. What if I just wanted to get the value without removing it? I could have said, give me the top value, but don't change it, right? So it would be very similar if I even wanted to implement it, right? So I could just like go ahead and implement it and say top right here. Top. What it would do, it would simply without doing much of a modification, simply say get, right? Simply say, simply return this, right? Just return a storage get without any kind of other type of changes, right? Just return the top element. Nothing changes. I go to my array list. I say, give me the specific thing at the very end of the sequence of elements. And so similarly, right, if I wanted to do this with array version, similarly, this would be a version that does just say return storage array element at the location top -1, right? Something like that, right? Hopefully that should do it.